Hey, this is Paige from Mosaic Moments, and today I am doing a demo on the corner strips die, which is this one here. Plus, I'm going to be showing the corner connector die, and both of them do work together. As you can see, the corner strips die has 3 different corners in it, a small, medium, and large one. Plus, it comes with a 1-inch square. There's also the corner connector, which probably looks similar to our 1x2 strip die. But when you put it up next to the corner strips die, you can see that the rectangles are spaced just like the strips die here. And I'm going to show you closer so maybe you can see better. Alright, so when I line up the corner connector, you can see the rectangles are equally spaced, so they line up exactly with the corner strips. So we did that intentionally, or designed it that way, so if you want to cut more of your photograph, the rectangles at the top will line up with your strips. And it's an optional die, but it is a handy one. So I can show you with this photograph. I have the corner strip die here at the bottom, and as you can see, the smallest 3 fit very well on a 4x6 photograph. And then I put the corner connector on top. As you can see, you can use both of these dies to cut a 4x6 photograph. So if you wanted more of your photograph shown other than what's in the corner strips, you can use a corner connector to add more of that same photograph onto your page. Alright, so now that you've been introduced to the dies, let's go ahead and get started with the demo. First, I'm going to create my focal point, which is a square shape. So we want to use the 4x4 square die from set A. And this is my mat made with cardstock. And next I'm going to cut my photo. So I'm going to replace that plastic plate with the crease pad. So now I have the 4x4 layering die from set A to cut my photograph, and I'm going to use washi tape because that die sits right on the edge of the photograph. So definitely use washi tape. Just so you know, the crease pad, sometimes the photos get an embossed edge because of the dies, but with that crease pad, my photo will be smooth and not have that creased edge. Alright, so now I have my focal point done, and I'm going to stick it on my grid paper now. So basically I just glue the back of my mat and put it in the center of my grid paper along the grid lines, of course. And it's pretty easy to just glue your photo and add it right on top. So now that's done. Now I'm going to start using my corner strips die. And you do want to pay attention to where these corners go. So this photo is going to be on the bottom left of my page. So I want to make sure the corners are facing towards the bottom left. So don't forget that we pay attention to where those corners are facing, or else it won't match up on your layout. And I do want to use the corner connector today. I'll do that in a moment. Okay, so you want to make sure your dies are stuck down really well, especially since we're going to be using 2 on the same photograph. So I put the washi tape on 1. And now I'm going to carefully line up the corner connector and make sure the rectangles are lined up with the corner strips. I do have a little bit of a gap, a tiny one, in between the 2 dies, just so there's some space to cut. And I'm adding extra washi tape, so yes, you will need plenty of washi tape to make sure these dies are stuck to your photograph really well, because they do shift very easily. And we want to make sure the corner strips and corner connector are lined up really well. Alright, so that cut through. Now I'm just going to take all these excess pieces off. And your photo will be stuck together, but it is cut through. And I'm going to leave them stuck together for the moment until I add them to the grid paper. So my first photograph's done. I get to move on to the next ones. I'm just getting my dies ready here, and I'm going to grab my next photograph. Alright, so this one's going to be placed on the top left of my page. So again, I made sure the corner was facing towards the top left. And I'm lining up the corner connector die right next to it, just like before. You line up the rectangles. Now the corners are going more, I guess, a horizontal direction. So obviously you want to make sure the corner connector, the rectangles are going the same direction, but that's pretty easy to figure out because it won't even fit on your photograph. And so again, I use plenty of washi tape, a little bit more than usual. All right, so I got this one cut, and again, I'm not planning to separate the pieces until right before I add them to my grid paper. No, I need to take, the tape gets everything stuck to the die. All right, so this one's going to go on the top right of my page, so you can take a guess as to why the corners are facing towards the top right. So that's a good rule to remember. The corners need to face the direction that you're going to place each cut on your page. And also make sure the corner connector, when you're placing it next to the corner strips die, that because your die won't fit on the whole 4x6 photograph, and I suggest they both go off the photograph on the same exact side, or your dies might not fit into the die machine very well. All right, I'm getting ready to cut my last photograph, get that tape off. So this photo is going to go on the bottom right of my grid paper. So of course the corners are facing the bottom right. And if you guessed that, you got that correct. Another tip to remember, if you are using the corner connector, make sure you do leave enough room to make sure your 4x6 photo will cut through correctly. Sometimes I'd have the corner strip die down the side a little too far, and then the corner connector didn't fit, so I had to adjust it. So keep that in mind as well if you want to use these dies together. All right, I got the last one cut. I'm just taking the tape off of it so I can add my photos to the grid paper. So now I'm adding my glue to the back of the photograph, and I like keeping them together so that when you add them to the page, it's really easy to know where each part needs to go. So I put the biggest piece on first, and now the middle piece, which it's pretty obvious it goes right next to it, right? And then I'm going to add this 1-inch square. All right, so we have those 3 pieces down. And next we need to add these rectangles. So I'm just going to start on the left side and then move my way over to the right. So I put the middle piece down, and then I'm going to put the right piece down. It all lines up correctly, and it looks really good, right? I like the corner strips. And the corner connector is nice because I can add more of my photograph to the page. And again, it's optional. You don't have to do that every time. But if you don't want to just show one little part of your photograph, you can add on with the corner connector. So I'm about to finish up my second part here. And it looks really good. I really like the design the corner strips die makes. Now I'm going to do that again. So just take your time as you put it on the grid paper. It might be a little tricky to line up the corners. Just take your time and line up the edge on that left side of the corner, as you usually would with any other block on the grid paper. Obviously, these rectangles are a bit easy to figure out where they go on the grid. I actually found this bottom right to be the trickiest because you're lining it up along 2 sections here, but it wasn't too bad. Just take your time. The main goal is to make sure the lines are covered. All right, so I'm almost done with this one, and so far it looks really cool. All right, get to move on to the next part. So I'm going to be using the corner connector die to fill in the rest of my space. I have this bright pink photo, and it's really easy to use the corner connector, but basically you want to make sure that the corner connector is either going vertical or horizontally, and that'll fit in the right places you want to on the grid. So all of my rectangles in this case are going horizontally. But I chose the bright pink and the purple in this case so they could stand out along, because the rest of my photographs are pretty green. You may want to have photographs that are similar so they all blend together, but I wanted these to stand out to add some contrast. So, of course, last you need to add the glue to the back of your photographs. Again, these photos were cut so the rectangles were horizontal, so that way it can fit on the grid correctly. If you wanted to, if you didn't want to use strips here, you could use the 2x3 die from set C to make photos with bigger blocks or add journaling spots. You could also cut these strips with cardstock instead of photographs. I like the pink and the purple cactus in this case because I think they're a contrast and a pop of color for the page, because everything else, as you can see, is more green. Alrighty, so I'm about to put down my last piece here. Alright, now I am done with my layout and it looks so good. I'm so glad the corner strips and the corner connector have been added to the Mosaic Moments collection. I mean, really, if you're kind of getting tired of that typical 1-inch square mosaic look, the corner strip is the way to go. You get this really cool design with all these neat detailed photographs. And I'm just pointing here, you can see those skinny little lines that go through the page and it makes this really cool design. Anyway, this is actually my first time using this die and I just see so much potential. So definitely keep your eye out for more examples coming because there's so much you could do with these dies. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this demo and I definitely hope you get this die and have fun using it at home. I'll see you next time.